everyone. Welcome to Lives Worth Telling. I'm your host, Jodes, and my podcast is about digging deep into people's stories and providing them with a platform to share their life and their experiences with my listeners. One of the key reasons in creating this podcast is so their families and friends can have a record of their life, their stories, and their voice forever. One of my favourite things is hearing about people's stories, their triumphs, their hardships, but most of all, I love hearing about their resilience. I really hope you enjoy listening to my guests share their lives with you. I want you to have a few laughs and allow yourself to be immersed in their stories. Welcome to episode 3 of Lives Worth Telling. Firstly, thank you to all our listeners, and I can't believe this, but we now have listeners in Europe, North America, South America, and now Africa. Oh my goodness. As of today, we are now listed as number 59 on Apple Podcasts in the category Society and Culture in Personal Journals. In today's episode, I will be joined by my cousin Tim. We are celebrating his 50th birthday this week, and what a way to celebrate by sharing his story with us. I have to say, some parts of today's episode may be triggering for those with mental health challenges and also those who have suffered miscarriages. In my opinion, Tim is a definition of resilience. He is such a positive person, and his sense of humour and laughter is infectious to all that meet him. Wishing you a happy 50th birthday, mate. Oh my gosh, I am so excited for our guest today. What can I say about this person? This is actually a little bit of a different one because this person's birthday is in about a week's time, and he is, can we say, we are turning 50. 50? Yep, 50. But this is kind of a little bit of a birthday interview and to chat about this person's life. And this person is related to me, and what a lucky person this person is. I'm going to introduce you to my cousin Tim. Welcome, Tim.
Thank you very much, Joe. It's lovely to be here.
Oh, my gosh. Now, to quote, open book. Is this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Open book. Yeah. And I think it's good for me to have that tip at the start.
There's lots of pictures and no words, but sure.
Yes. So we'll start off with talking about your background and childhood. And I guess I know a lot, but there's a lot that I don't know. And tell me about your family and parents, siblings, and go.
Right.
Yes.
So 1974.
Yes.
July 12.
Yes.
As you mentioned before, milestone birthday next week.
Milestone birthday, 21.
Goodness gracious me, 21 again. Who'd have thought?
You're younger than me, so not hard.
So mum and dad were both in the car trade for a number of years, selling used cars, owning their own businesses, running that. I was born in Caulfield Bethlehem Hospital, actually.
Oh.
Yep. So make of that what you will.
Ah, a man of the cloth?
A man of the cloth, yes, absolutely. And lived in Doncaster, I think, for the first couple of years.
Yeah. And
then mum and dad bought in Wonga Park, which is sort of towards Lilydale, Ringwood, Bush way.
Yes.
And had quite a lovely property there.
Beautiful.
Actually, yeah,
yes.
Yeah. So I went to Wonga Park Primary.
Did you ride horses back then?
Yeah.
You did ride horses?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mum was a pretty keen rider of horses.
Yes.
Dad not so much. I think he got too grumpy with them. He didn't have good technique with the horses. They didn't really like him. But Mum was a good rider.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
had she ridden horses before they bought in Wonga Park?
Oh, possibly.
Okay.
Possibly. She was a Shelford girl.
Yes.
Like yourself.
Yes.
And I have no idea if there was horse riding or anything like that at school.
Okay.
So I'm not too sure.
I can't remember seeing her on a horse, but that was early days. Like I guess we were quite young.
Yeah.
At the time.
Yeah. I know she really enjoyed her horse riding.
Yeah.
And we had a couple of horses. I think Monaco was one that I sort of remember.
Yes.
But then when I was 7, I think, Mum and Dad had my sister Amy.
Yes.
And I think she was a bit of a surprise because there was a 7-year gap between us, which is a fair gap, but obviously a pleasant surprise.
Yes.
And
you thought you were going to be an only child and be everyone's favourite, and then another one comes along.
Yeah. I know.
Rude.
Little whippersnapper. So,
yes.
I mean, then I had to pretend to act like Amy was and just crying like a baby just so I could get a little bit of attention. But, you got to do what you got to do. Yeah, I know. It's just, it got a bit ridiculous. So the thumb in my mouth and dummy. But anyway, we digress. Yeah, so that was sort of Wonga Park. And then things went pear-shaped with Dad's business.
Okay.
And we moved to Noble Park North.
Yep.
When I was grade 2.
Okay.
However old that is. Is that 8 or 9 or something? And
you always tell me that your memory's so bad. So have you been studying and checking your facts, going, I must get everything
I've just
right.
got some notes on my hand. So I've got a big hand. I don't have a good memory, so this is a really good test for me.
This is actually, you're in the psychologist's office and we're having a chat conversation.
I know.
I'm doing a test.
I know. I actually hope that no one fact checks me later on.
There's no one. That's all good.
I'll be pinging off the charts, going bing, Donald Trump like.
Yes.
So that was So we moved because Dad's business went pear-shaped.
Okay.
And as you're a kid, you don't I had no comprehension of what that meant.
No.
We just moved to a different house.
Yes.
So it didn't make any difference to me. I didn't notice anything different. I was just in a new school and had to meet new friends and everything.
Yeah, of course.
It's only later on that you find out the stories and the pressures of parents and financial situations and
How did you feel about starting a new school? I never thought about that as a kid when you guys moved house.
See, this goes back to the conversation 1 minute ago where I have a really bad memory.
I blocked it out.
I actually don't. I can't remember how I felt about it, but I feel like I blended in. Like I was a pretty sporty kid.
Yeah.
I loved my footy.
Much like myself.
Yes.
Laughter's hurtful. Yeah, that's good. So you started a new school when you were in grade 2, moved house.
Partway through grade 2, yeah.
Partway through.
Yeah.
Gee.
So I do remember saying goodbye to the kids at Wonga Park, and that was pretty sad because I was old enough to know that I probably wasn't going to see them again. So
Amy would have been fairly young then when you moved. Did she?
Oh,
did they have her in
she
Wonga
would have
Park?
been 1 or 2.
Yeah.
She definitely had her at Wonga Park. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And, so I moved there when I was in grade 2, finished primary school there, and then Mum and Dad put me into Haileybury College.
Okay.
So I feel like I did a couple of scholarship tests at a couple of places.
Okay.
And I found those scholarship tests pretty stressful, to be honest. A lot of it was reading comprehension, and I had to read things and then talk about what it meant.
Okay.
But I felt in my head that I was reading things without actually taking it in.
Yes.
And had no idea of what it meant.
What was that about? I don't know.
I think that actually translates because my daughter River now says that I have no comprehension of the words to song lyrics.
Yes.
Like I know a lot of lyrics, but I actually never listen to what the song means. And so I'll be bopping away and River will go, do you know what that song's actually about? I go, no. And she'll tell me, and I go,
okay.
I'm not singing that again. But I found that quite stressful, those scholarship tests. But and again, moving into Haileybury, you don't appreciate until you become older what my parents went through.
Yes.
To be able to put me through Haileybury.
The sacrifices.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're just a kid at high school.
Yeah.
And yet
had no idea.
Yes.
Absolutely no idea.
So did you were living in, when you went to Haileybury, where were you living then?
At the end of, I feel like at the end of grade 6, we moved to Upper Beaconsfield.
Okay.
which was another country sort
Yes.
of area where we had an acre,
Yes.
and we didn't have the animals that we had at Wonga Park.
Okay.
And I'll never forget my God bless Dad. He's no longer with us, but he never had a ride-on mower at Upper Beaconsfield, and I had to mow that bloody thing all the time on a push mower.
Oh, jeez.
No podcast back then,
No,
Jodes.
Todd Labo.
A dodgy Walkman that would, the headphones would be through one ear and not the other, and the bloody thing.
Oh, I bet the grass grew quickly too. Yes.
Oh dear. But yeah.
So that's interesting. Just thinking now is that country atmosphere, like you know, even not Doncaster so much, but maybe back then it was, but Wonga Park and Upper Beaconsfield, that they kind of preferred more country areas. Yet, where did your dad grow up?
He was a Paran boy.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and back in the day, Paran was a pretty hard sort of area where you really had to look after yourself with fists and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's not the trendy area that it wasn't the trendy area that it is now.
Yes.
And being so close to the city, it was a really rough sort of area. So Dad grew up there. Mum grew up in Elstonwick.
Yes.
But I actually don't remember how they met. I'll have to ask Mum.
Tinder?
Well, you never know.
What would be the version of that?
Writing a letter.
How they do it? We'll have to fact check that. Hang on, I'll just text her. No.
Yeah.
She's like, I don't know either. Yeah, right. So you had what age was Amy when you started high school? Was she starting?
Well, the funny thing was, my last year of primary school, she was in prep.
Okay.
Which was an interesting year because, grade 6, you're part of the cool kids.
Yes.
You have boyfriends and girlfriends and you're trying to hang out with people.
Oh,
and then you've got your little preppy sister who tracks you down in every corner that you are and says, someone's beating me up or someone's told me that, my dress doesn't look nice and can you go and talk to them? I'm like, sure, Ames, no worries.
So she looked up to you.
Yeah, she did.
Brother.
She did.
Yes.
She did. And it was fine. It was fine. I was happy to help her out. But yeah, there were definitely times where I found different little pockets of the school where I would, perhaps be a bit harder to track.
Hide. Oh gosh. So that was. How did you enjoy Haileybury as a school?
Yeah, I did enjoy Haileybury. They were big on the sporty side, which I was very happy with. So football and tennis.
Yes.
I always wished I'd played cricket.
Okay.
At least one summer rather than tennis because I always did tennis, but I didn't. And it was when I look back now, there's a lot of contact hours, and again as a kid you don't know any different, so you've got nothing to compare it to. But we had after school sport twice a week after school. Okay. So catching the bus from Upper Beaconsfield to Keysborough, there was
How long did that
two
take?
Buses. Well,
in the snow?
Reg would pick me up in Upper Beaconsfield, good old Reg.
Oh, my goodness.
And he'd drop me at Beaconsfield, and then there'd be a bus from Beaconsfield to Keysborough. So it took an hour and a half at least to get there.
What's with both of our parents not wanting us to have a quick trip to school? I was in Willis Hill and had to travel to Caulfield, and you had to travel from Upper Beaconsfield to Keysborough.
Well, yeah, there's
nothing
that.
like around the corner.
No.
But anyway.
But in fairness, there wasn't much around the corner apart from bush
fair enough.
in Upper Beaconsfield. So there wasn't much there. But that was 2 nights a week, and then there was Saturday sport. Sorry,
okay. That's compulsory.
Yeah,
in those parts, isn't it? Yes,
yeah,
I think
absolutely.
It is still today.
Absolutely. So, but I really enjoyed that. Like I love my sport, so that was great. And you just sort of it was different because it was an all boys school.
Yep.
And I think it made it easier for me in that it was all guys, but it also made it a little bit harder for me after that.
Yes.
Because I just didn't feel that I was socialised with, 50% of the population.
True.
But, that's the way it was. But I really enjoyed Haileybury, and I certainly appreciated after I left, or probably a few years after I left, to be honest, the sacrifices that Mum and Dad had made to give me a good education. And, of course, after Haileybury, I went and worked at McDonald's and dropped out of uni. So
I'd say there's nothing like appreciation, says flipping a cheeseburger. Going back to memorable trips or outings that you had with you guys as a family, the age gap between you and Amy, do you remember any holidays or outings that you guys did as the four of you?
We drove up to Queensland once.
Yeah.
And I feel like that was a one and done, and Mum and Dad were never going to do that again. And I don't think we ever did, because I think for them, 2 kids in the back seat.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, just it was the old thing of, we're bored, and Mum would say, just look out the window. There's things out there to look at. And we're going, sure, there's trees. Look, there's another one.
3 days later. Yes.
So, yeah, I don't feel like there were that many holidays purely because Dad was working 6 days a week.
Yeah.
And he would have been buggered.
There wasn't room for it, really. Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No. And when you're working 6 days, and he had health issues as well. He had one foot that was slightly shorter than the other, and in a car yard, he's on his feet the whole time. So he had back problems and leg problems, and I can only imagine it just would have been buggered.
Yes.
So I don't feel that there was that much room for holidays, and plus they were sending me to Haileybury.
Yeah.
So that took away
that was your holiday.
Part of their disposable income to do that sort of stuff as well, which was part of the sacrifice they made to send me there.
And where did Amy go at the time? So she was in primary school up in Beaconsfield?
Yep. In Upper Beaconsfield. No, she went to St Margaret's.
Okay.
Yeah, she went to St Margaret's for maybe 2 or 3 years. I don't think it was a great experience.
Okay.
I don't think she was. She was more the artistic person, Amy, into dancing and that sort of thing. She was heavily into her dancing. That was her thing. But the academic side, not so much.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gosh. So then, is there anything that you, from your childhood, that were quite significant times, moving through primary school and high school? Anything significant in that time? And what family life was like for you at the time?
I do remember my nana passing away, and that was a really sad time because I was really close to her, and that was my dad's mum.
Yep.
And we were at Noble Park at the time, and this is one thing I remember clearly. I was in my bedroom, and my cousin Brendan and Auntie Barb came to the door, and they just said, "She's gone, Ken." And I knew what they meant, but I just sort of closed my door and just kept doing what I was doing. Yeah, and she wasn't well.
How old was she?
She was 69.
Gee.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, well, not old. Not old. Yeah.
Gosh. Do you know that's a really – do you know like your mum's mum, she died at 69 as well.
Yeah.
My dad died at 69.
Oh, goodness me.
Yes. So when you that number,
it's a thing.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm going to get worried around that time.
Yeah,
if I make it. That
far. Yeah, that's right. And what a funny story about Nana. She never used to tell me how old she was, and I'd ask her all the time.
That's such a thing back then.
Yeah, I know. It was, I don't know why, but I think the fact that she didn't want to tell me meant that I just kept asking her because I just became more and more determined.
Can't let it go.
And then I remember seeing her in hospital one day and, we were just saying hello and blah, blah, blah. And then I look at the
peek on the chart.
bed. It's got her chart and it had her age.
Ripper.
I said, Nana, I know how old you are.
Sprung.
She said,
You're not 21.
Don't tell anyone today.
Yes. Get on your hat. Sure. Oh, that's gorgeous. That's gorgeous. So I guess then you started working at Macca's. What was your plan when you finished high school? Did you have a different plan?
Yeah. Sorry, plan.
As Phoebe says on Friends, I don't even have a plan. Yes. Is there something that you're working towards through or just trying to get through high school and just see what happens after that?
No, look, I was completely listless. I initially, in sort of year 11, sort of year 9, 10, 11, I thought I'd like to get into law.
Okay.
I found that quite interesting.
Yes.
Sort of economics, politics, law, I always found quite interesting. And then as I started looking into it, I realised how hard it was to get into it. And I thought, well, you're no chance, Sanchez. And I did okay. Like I did pretty well in my final year. I think we were like one of the first VCE guinea pigs.
Yes.
Actually.
Okay. When did you finish year 12?
1992.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
That was early, very early on. I think when I did mine, it was part of it was half and half. Some were HSC subjects and some were VCE subjects.
Oh, really?
So I think maybe that year was the
we
full
were the first
VCE.
full one. Yeah. So, but I can't even remember what the mark was, which is completely irrelevant now because it's all changed.
Yes.
But I felt I did pretty well.
Yes.
But I had no idea what I wanted to do.
Did you apply to universities?
Yeah,
you had the preferences?
So I got into Monash Arts.
Yes.
But I just very quickly found that university life just wasn't for me. It was so big.
Yes.
So big and overwhelming.
At Clayton? You're at
Clayton.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I just felt like a tiny little tadpole. Plus, I had no idea what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, what is a Bachelor of Arts going to get me? What am I going to do?
At what point did you start working at Macca's? Had you started way before then?
No.
So as a teenager?
No. So I basically only started working at Macca's because we were living in Berwick at the time and I was going to Monash at Clayton and I applied for a job at Macca's in Mulgrave.
Okay.
Because it was sort of pretty close to Clayton. And Steve Taylor, who's a good friend now, interviewed me.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah. I didn't know him at the time, but he interviewed me and thankfully he gave me a job. And because I was 18 and could drive, they gave me a lot of night shifts.
Excellent.
Which was fine.
Yes.
And I would just do the night shifts and I'd go to uni during the day. And then as the months progressed, I'd find myself taking on more shifts at Macca's and think, uni, no, not today. Not today. Yeah, probably not tomorrow either. In fact,
this is my gig.
Do I really need to go? So I didn't. But the stupid thing is I didn't do anything about it. I just didn't go. I just didn't do enough.
Didn't get a note from your mum?
I didn't put any, notification to say this isn't for me. I'm just going to drop it. I just didnn't go. So, hello, Hexted.
Oh, no. So was that 1 year that was it just in that first year of uni or you?
Yeah, it was definitely in the first year. I'm going to say probably the first semester.
Oh, my gosh. The first semester.
Maybe the second
very
semester.
Introductory in that.
Maybe I hung on. Maybe I really hung in there for one semester.
Well, that's dedication. I think your commitment is outstanding. after Macca's. Do you eat Macca's today?
No one can ever call me a quitter.
No, that's right.
Because I actually never quit.
No,
I just didn't go.
You didn't. Well, there's a technicality.
Yeah.
That is a technicality. I guess whether we can go a bit more chronological and what happened, I guess, from then on with your career, we can move into your family life as an adult and relationships. But I think there is maybe a key point, I guess, that I have inside info as to you just took off to another country.
Yeah.
When was that?
Took me a long time to, I guess, mature. Mm-hmm. And some would say it's still a work in progress.
Yeah, still getting there, Timbo.
On a big scale. But I had a friend who had gone over to England, mm-hmm. and I was working full-time at Nando's at that time. And this is indicative of how dumb I was back in the day, and some will say still dumb. But anyway, I took this gig at Nando's working in their caravans, and they went around to all the sporting events.
Yes.
So, the MCG Grand Final, the Phillip Island, the MotoGP, you go to, the races and all these sporting events. Never saw any sport. So I was in a bloody caravan outside. What was I thinking?
Well, air hostesses that see the travel, they just see airports.
I just had in my head, I thought, I go to all these sporting events.
You've been ripped off.
I was.
You were ripped off.
Stuck in a caravan cooking bloody chickens.
Oh, dodgy as.
But yes, I did. I just made a spontaneous decision to follow my mate over to England. Got the visa, paid a return flight airfare, and I went over with £1,500.
Okay.
And that was it.
Yeah. Where'd you go first?
So my mate had already hooked up some accommodation for me.
Okay.
And that was in Brixton.
Okay.
Now, if anybody knows Brixton, it's a little bit rough.
Okay.
Or was rough back then. This is 1999. And, there were some pretty weird dudes walking the streets of Brixton. I remember I was walking the street one day just having a sandwich, and some guy was walking towards me and tried to rip the sandwich out of my hand.
Jeez.
Like,
what's going on
really?
here? Not in Kansas
it's
anymore.
Just a sandwich, mate.
Yeah.
It's not
$100 in my pocket. Yeah.
So, I just made that decision, and one of the best life decisions I've ever made.
Yes.
Because it taught me to budget.
Yeah.
Because I only had 1,500 quid and I needed to find work fast, real fast.
Yes.
And there was no credit cards. There was there was nothing like that. I was forced to live within my means. I met some fantastic people over there, saw some fantastic places, worked in some amazing places, and came back 2 years later. Had the full 2 years.
Okay.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Did you miss home?
Yeah, the first couple of months were really tough, like really tough, because it was maybe the first 2 weeks were, this is all exciting, this is great, this is great. It's like a holiday, and then it sort of kicks in that, I'm not actually seeing my family and I'm not seeing my friends from back home. And poor mum and dad, I would call reverse charges from like a telephone booth because there was no mobiles quite yet.
Yeah.
And they'd accept it. God bless them. And when I got back 2 years later, they told me about some of the costs of those phone calls. I thought, bloody hell. If I were you, I just wouldn't have accepted them.
Did they hand you an invoice?
If they had have, I'd still be paying it off, I reckon.
Gosh.
But I did get quite homesick for a couple of months. And then you get into a groove and a bit of a routine and everything. And then I was fine.
Did they encourage you to travel? So when you said to them, right, I'm going overseas, did they say,
oh, they were great. No, they were great.
That's good.
But they also expected to be home within about 2 months after that.
Yeah.
And I went,
Yeah. Guess what?
Yeah. But I did miss them. I did miss them. Because that's a long time, 2 years is a long time.
Yes.
It didn't seem long at the time because it just sort of flies by, but it was.
In their life, it would have felt like forever.
Yeah, that's
because
true.
Had you lived out of
true.
home previous to moving overseas at that point?
Yes, I had. Oh, or had I? Yeah, I had.
Okay.
I had.
Okay.
Yeah.
So missing from the family home, that wasn't it?
No, that was okay. That was okay. But yeah, I moved back home when I got back home because I had nothing. I had no cash, no job, I had nothing. I was like George Costanza.
Stephen Taylor.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy, old pal.
Yeah, that's right.
Yes. So what did you do when you got back? Did you feel a bit out of sorts?
Well, I really had actually made contact with a couple of recruiters when I was in London.
Okay.
Because email was a thing back then, even back then. So I was able to sort of email a couple of recruiters, and then I got this job at Lease Plan, and talk about faking it till you make it. Oh my goodness.
What did you say you could do?
The things I said in that interview. Wowee. So have you had much collections experience? Yeah, I've had a couple of years collections experience. Collections experience. So tell me about an instance of a difficult client that, that you had to work through and get the right outcome for the company. And I'm just flipping off lies left, right and centre.
He's full of it.
Talking about Coca-Cola and all these sorts of things, and how they were a big company but they were difficult to deal with. I'm going, and I came out of there going, oh my God, I nailed that.
That guy's got the job. He's a rock star.
And they gave me the job.
Oh my goodness.
And so I became a collections officer at Lease Plan, and then I found my niche.
Yeah. And you found your way.
Yeah.
They didn't, it wasn't imposter syndrome.
No.
I actually can't do any of this. Sorry to tell you.
Yeah. Well, it was a kind of job where collections wasn't a job where I needed a degree or anything.
Yes.
So if you're a reasonably smart person and logical, then you could
That's
do
good.
it. You could do it. And I really enjoyed it. And again, met a great group of friends, and so a good, social network. And then I moved my way up to the company to senior and then manager. And I'm still in the credit game today.
So good. You've bluffed all 25, these years.
I know.
All the way through.
It started with a lie, but now I'm actually an expert.
That's awesome. That's so good. That is really good. So, Tim, moving on to relationships now. And how did you meet Miss Felicity?
Dear Flick, God bless her. If I had $1 for every time Flick shakes her head at me, I'd be a multi-billionaire.
She shakes her head at you?
Oh, she has the patience of a sin, Jodes,
oh, my
honestly.
gosh.
But I met her George's, what was it called? George's Bar or something in Fitzroy Street.
Okay.
And I had a good mate, Rob, at work. And so I think Rob had invited Flick to come down to the George Bar. And by the time Flick got there, I was 3 sheets to the wind and then some. So I am just talking gibberish. And I think my very first conversation with Flick was something along the lines of, no, you can't have Rob. He's mine.
So it's going well.
Yeah. So great first impressions. Yeah, and then I met Flick that night, but then I had a trip to Thailand with my good mate Spitty.
Okay.
Because Shami and Lee were living in Thailand and Shams was working for Holden.
Okay.
And Spitty and I decided to go over and visit him for a couple of weeks, which was an amazing trip.
Yeah.
And when I got back, I thought, I'm going to speak to Rob and see if I can get this Felicity's phone number because she was pretty cute. And so
what year's this?
This would have been 2003.
Okay.
So I thought, right, get it together, be bold, be brave. So I texted her. Just asking if she wanted to come out for a drink at some point. And, yeah, she said yes.
Oh, my goodness.
And then we went to Bridie O'Reilly's for our first date. And funnily enough, at that first date, unbeknownst to me, there were 4 or 5 other Felicity spies in the venue, which I didn't know about.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, because they'd been out somewhere and Bridie's was pretty close to where they'd been, and they thought, we'll tag along and see this Tim character.
Casing the joint.
And Flick, God bless her, she's so honest. Partway through the night, she goes, look, I have to be honest. Those people in the corner, they're actually with me. I go,
she has a posse.
Hi, everyone. She had a posse. Yeah, on our first date.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
And so when did you guys then decide, this is the real thing?
Well,
let's make this permanent.
I always make a bit of a joke, about it because I was living in Toorak at the time.
Okay.
Because I was
Macca's has done you well then.
Doing very well in the collections game.
Very well.
And so I rented a 1-bedder in Toorak while I was driving my Barina. And Flick lived in Moorabbin.
Okay.
And there's conjecture about this.
I see.
But there was a point in time where we thought, well, maybe we could move in together.
Yes.
And I always say to Flick, well, you basically told me that you were moving in with me. There wasn't much of a discussion. She always says that it was a bit more collaborative, but,
there's two sides to every story.
Well, which one's the better story?
And there's a truth.
So she moved into my 1-bedder.
Oh, wow.
Which was tiny. It was like tiny. But it was in
Toorak.
In Toorak, so we could say we lived in Toorak and it was close to everything, and decided that, okay, well, this seems pretty real.
Yeah.
So we had a weekend down in Tassie and I asked her to marry me.
Oh, my goodness.
So I did the right thing, got down on bended knee and everything, and she said yes, which was awesome.
Oh, my gosh.
And then we arranged a wedding relatively soon after, I think. So we got married in January of
You better get this right.
January 28, 2005. Yes. So 20 years next year.
Oh, my goodness.
Actually. Yeah.
Are you thinking of doing something special?
We'll definitely do something.
Yeah.
I don't know what yet, but we'll definitely do something. If the thing about Flick is if she's not on holidays, she needs to be thinking about holidays or planning a holiday.
There's got to be familiar.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's got to be one of the three. At the moment, we don't have any.
Oh.
Yeah.
So she'll be thinking about holidays.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. So, yeah, we'll do something nice, but yeah.
20 years next year.
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. What are some of your earliest and best memories together with Flick?
We've been on lots of really good trips.
Yeah, excellent.
And she's very smart, Flick. Like she very much challenges me intellectually. And one of the things that I like to say is she's 3 degrees, right?
Yeah.
So she's a nurse, she's a midwife, and she's a maternal and child health nurse. So she's got 3 degrees.
Yes.
So my thing, of course, is, well, we're a smart family because between the two of us, we've got 3 degrees.
She's made up for it.
Oh,
gee,
so
the sacrifices she's made.
But she's very clever. Like one weekend, she suggested that we go to Adelaide because Carlton were playing in Adelaide, and we could also go and do some stuff. So she's always thinking about other people.
Yes,
she really is.
Spontaneous.
Yeah,
a spontaneous planner.
So here's where we differ. I am not spontaneous. I am a person of routine. So if anybody throws up something about, you want to just pop down. No. What are you talking talking about? You didn't give me notice about that. No,
Oh
I
my
can't
gosh,
do it.
I
Why
really-
can't you do it? Because.
That sounds how Ads describes me. Anyway. Is it genetic?
Oh, I don't know.
Potentially.
Yeah.
Yes.
But
whoa,
she
I
can
need
be
to know about-
spontaneous, but I am trying to learn to be spontaneous.
Yes. It's not an easy thing, especially when I guess you're used to being in a certain way. It's kind of relearning things a little bit.
Oh, absolutely.
Hey.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And another thing about me, and you only sort of appreciate this as you mature and get older. Like even as a young adult, I was incredibly selfish. Incredibly selfish.
Oh,
Even with girlfriends and all of that sort of thing. It was all me. And
your way of the highway.
I was like, no, that's not how the world works.
Wait, what?
You keep on with that, you're going to be living with no one but you and your little pet hamster. So, yeah, there's lots of stuff that you learn as you get older and
Yes.
and more experienced in life.
I
think.
agree.
Yeah,
I agree.
I admire Flick's resilience because she was actually diagnosed with MS, probably, again, memory not great, probably 8 or 9 years ago.
Yeah,
I'm
it
gonna
feels
say.
like not that long ago, but it,
And she basically woke up one morning and couldn't see out of one eye. And that was how it began. And she didn't understand, and then it took a couple of months, I think, for tests to come back, and she had MS, and that was bloody frightening because it's a lot of the fear of the unknown.
Absolutely.
And the fear of the worst things about MS that you hear about. So she had to have a couple of treatments in hospital over a 2 or 3 year period, and she has to have regular blood tests to make sure that there's no more spots that come up. But the reason I said that I admire her resilience is because she does so many things to keep that bloody thing at bay. Like she does exercise physiology, she's done hydrotherapy, she does PT, she does all these things, and she still does them today. And that's something that she'll probably continue to do because the advice she's given is that exercising and keeping things stimulated and keeping your body active is the best thing to keep this thing at bay. So, yeah, and she'll get up at 6:30 in the morning and go to PT, and I'm like, oh my God, that is so good, because she's asked me if I wanted to go to PT and all that sort of stuff, and I'm like, man, nope, that's not for me.
I agree, Tim.
Yeah.
I guess that diagnosis was a shock for all of us, and in my mind, I just thought, haven't you guys been through enough? Could the universe have not handed this card to you?
Yeah.
But she's taken it in her stride, and I guess there's extra things that she has to be mindful of, but she always has a smile on her face.
She's awesome.
Amazing.
She's awesome. And it's about managing it now, and there's a lot of tiredness. So she needs lots of rest, naps during the day where possible, a bit of downtime, because one of the big things about it is just tiredness and fatigue.
Yeah.
So she does a really good job of managing that, and I need to try and do my fair share to make sure that she can get that time as well.
But like you say, what we would have understood MS many, many, many years ago from the MS readathon, what a diagnosis of MS meant, even maybe 5 years prior to Flick's diagnosis, what it meant then, that medical, I guess, treatment has come ahead in so many ways, that had she been diagnosed 5 years prior to that, the treatment was so different to when she was diagnosed. So,
Yep.
And the outcomes too, it's hard not to jump ahead and think the worst.
Yeah.
But yeah, I agree. Her resilience, she's very, very lovable.
Yeah.
And here's another one. What are her quirks or personality traits about her that are just a little bit different that you particularly like about her? Like any little nuances that she has?
Okay. I've got one that I pick her up on all the time.
Oh, no.
No, it's a good one. It's a good one. Well, I mean, I think it's funny. She might not think so. But anyway, this is my story.
It's true. I will have her on.
So if I'm playing a prank or if I'm saying something so outrageously stupid as to be incredulous, she starts at this really high pitch, like, what? What? Like all the time. And I'll go, whoa, just lower it down.
Take the
But she just starts at a really high. I don't know if she's trying to be Mariah Carey. She
hitting the high note.
Yeah. So that's a bit of a quirk. I do call her a bit of a Hufflepuff because she really enjoys the creature comfort of being tucked up in bed with the blanket over her. Jessie, lying by her side, so that she really enjoys that. And getting up is difficult because she ain't a morning person.
Okay,
she is not a morning person. So, perfect example this morning.
Oh,
okay. So, I'm normally the chef, but on Saturdays I get eggs on toast.
Yes,
Flick gets up and makes eggs on toast and a cup of tea.
Fabulous.
So this morning, Jessie wakes up at 6 o'clock, starts going, row, 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 where's my breakfast? I go, Flick, you need to get Jessie's breakfast. Okay. Flick gets up within a minute. So then I'm lying there, I'm thinking, okay, it's too early for breakfast. That's fine. I'll read the paper. So I read the paper. Gets to about past 7, and I'm thinking, I'm getting pretty hungry now. So I just
you tick the card. I wanted breakfast at this time.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
You filled it out the night before. She's got plenty of notice.
So I give Flick a bit of a nudge. I say, sweetheart, I'm getting a bit hungry. She says, okay, a couple more minutes. Without a shadow of a lie, within 5 seconds. Okay, how well am I going here?
Starve to death here.
So I actually timed it. It was 1 minute to get up for Jessie and 8 minutes to get up for me. So where do the priorities lie?
Oh, yes. Yes, I do like that. As it say, dog, kids, dog, husband.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Oh.
But that is a quirk of hers. She does love her bed and reading in bed. She's an avid reader.
Yes.
Loves her reading.
She does.
Yeah.
I cannot believe how many books she gets through.
Well, she challenges herself.
Yeah.
So at the start of the year, she'll say, I want to read, 100 books or something.
Yeah.
And she'll just do it.
She's a machine. I seriously can't believe how
many. And she's
many.
not a competitive person either. But that's a bit of a passion of hers is reading.
Yes.
So I guess when you're passionate about something, you push yourself to do it.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I guess we've had a little bit of a chat about work and profession and where you're at now, and you've just bluffed your way through and being
early days. I bluffed my way through.
Be an expert. I guess talking about your union with Flick and decision to have children, and I want you to talk a little bit about your.
Yeah, so again, this points to me being pretty immature and not really being adult enough to think these things through. You just think that you'll just have kids, like they'll just magically appear, and you'll have 2 or 3 or however many, and happy days.
Yeah.
But that's not always the reality. So we Flick fell pregnant and had River, which was just the most amazing experience ever. And
Yes.
it is life-changing.
Yes, it is.
In every single way and in such a beautiful way as well. And it was just awesome. And, yeah, so she was a beautiful little baby, still a beautiful, beautiful girl now. But, yeah, and I always wanted to be hands-on and I never wanted to miss anything.
Yeah.
And I think in this day and age, dads you've got to be all in.
Yes.
And I know that even Flick sees some clients as a maternal and child health nurse, and the relationships are quite traditional where the mother would do everything, the dad would work, and then, you know, there'd be dinner on the table and all that sort of stuff. I was very determined not to be that traditional way and to make sure that I did my bit. And all throughout River's childhood, I've never wanted to miss anything. So whether it's a performance or getting an award at school, I just take the time off and be there. Yeah. And so I've really enjoyed that journey. But I guess going back to the part of things not always being easy, so Flick did fall pregnant after having River. But she unfortunately had a miscarriage, and it was at around the 20-week mark, I think, and we were within a week or so of knowing the sex of the baby, and I'm sort of glad I didn't know the sex of the baby. But like that's it. It's bad enough having a miscarriage, and I can't even imagine what it would have felt like for Flick because she was carrying the child. But then it's not just having a miscarriage, it's what happens after, because you actually have to go to the hospital and actually give birth to a little human that wasn't alive. And I was completely unprepared. I mean, how do you prepare for that?
Yeah.
But we went into Monash, and the people there were so good. Like, they were so sympathetic and empathetic. One of the guys there, Ewan Wallace, is actually now the health secretary, I think, in Victoria. Is very, very high up. And they gave Flick some sort of tablet to help with the pregnancy, and it was just the most horrific experience ever. I'll never forget, we're both lying down on the bed. I was holding Flick's hand, and I was just looking up at the roof, and I just told myself, don't look down. Don't look down. And that was hours. Like, I felt like we were there for hours, and it was just absolutely shattering. Absolutely shattering. And Flick's friend Anita was amazing support for those first sort of 24, 48 hours.
She's a midwife.
Yeah, and a maternal and child health nurse now. Yes. Yeah. And yeah, she was a great support, but it was just devastating. I don't think I've ever really gotten over that, and Flick certainly hasn't. Well, and then, you know, even after that, as if it's not bad enough, every month at Monash they have a little service for the babies that don't survive, and so you've got all these tiny white coffins. It just as if the experience couldn't get any harder. Then you go through that, and that whole thing definitely impacted me. And we never had another child, and that's a big regret for me that I wasn't able to, that we weren't able to have another child, because I know that Flick really wanted a sibling for River. So yeah, that's definitely a regret that we couldn't have that. Yeah, that second one.
You can't I speak to a lot of people, and I guess that is one of the most heartbreaking things you would ever have to endure for both of you.
Yeah.
But I think about too something so just insanely horrid in every way that it can either push you apart or bring you together. And in my mind, it would have brought you closer together, and then working out what you communicate to River, how you communicate this to the family, and the fallout of that. There was that event, I guess, and then the fallout and how we deal with this moving on, really challenging for both of you and for River, who is then waiting for a sibling who never.
Yeah.
I guess how old was she at the time?
Well, she was quite young. I think she was only two, maybe 3.
Okay.
So it might have been a bit young for her to comprehend. But it's one of those things where people don't know how to treat people who are grieving.
Yeah.
Because we're not generally equipped to do it.
Yeah.
So you either get people who deliberately sort of steer clear because they really don't know what to do, and then you get the people that are comforting and say the right things, but it's really difficult to comprehend the depth of just abject despair. And you do go through a bit of a why me, or why us? Sorry, not why me. Why us?
Yeah.
And I think that's natural. And it, if nothing else, it gave me such a deep appreciation of the fact that having children, even conceiving children and giving birth to children, it's not easy for everybody.
Yeah.
Some people have challenges, and for some people, they're able to have kids easily and great, fantastic. For other people, it's not all roses. And, you think about the people who can't conceive naturally and then they try IVF, and that's very expensive.
Yes.
And, there's no guarantees there either. And then you contrast it with, some people who are just rotten parents.
Yes.
And you think, well, where's the fairness there?
I know. There isn't, mate.
Yeah.
There absolutely isn't. It's something that is just incomprehensible, really, and that Flick, through her work, would have had experiences with people in labour and things happening for them, but it's a complete pivot. It's happening to her.
Well, it was even worse for Flick because her field of work is babies. So
going back to work for her,
yeah. So at least I could go back to my, finance nerd role.
Yes.
And sort of switch off for a period of time. But her role is,
going back into labour and women again.
Yeah. And so she took a long time to get back to work, which is, completely fair enough.
How she even went back at all.
Went back.
Yeah. Just like you with uni, just don't turn up.
Yeah.
Just don't go back.
Yeah, exactly.
Back,
Yeah.
Perfectly acceptable, really.
Yeah. But like most things, I guess time heals.
Yes.
Like it's a bit of a cliche, but it is true as well.
Yeah. It eases.
It makes it a little bit easier as time goes on, I think. Yeah. And Flick and I, like that put a lot of pressure on us. It did put a lot of pressure on us because that's just a horrendous thing.
And also you probably process it and react to it in different ways. We're all wired differently. How some people go, nope, I'm moving on. And then that has its own issues as well, where you go, no, we're good, we're all good to go.
Yep.
And the other person's going, no, we need to just kind of deal with this.
Well, that's
different
exactly
ways
right.
of dealing with it.
And the perfect example is because we named our baby Amity, and the perfect example of that is, of course, after the service, there's a burial, which was at Brighton Cemetery.
Oh, my goodness.
And so Flick would want to go and visit the cemetery. And I was never that keen.
Yes.
But, of course, I want to support Flick.
Yeah.
So that's as you were saying, that's the perfect example of two different ways of trying to deal with it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's for her, she potentially felt comfort from the visit, and you're thinking, I'm not going to get comfort from this visit. I can't do it.
Yeah.
But, definitely challenging times for both of you. But at the same time, you still had to continue being parents to River and be present, and all life still goes on in other areas.
Yep.
But so challenging for you guys. And I think that's probably where you found out who your biggest supporters were within the family and friends.
Yeah, for sure.
That some people step back and some people step forward.
Yep.
That there'll be some superstars in that mix that have supported you guys through that.
Yeah. And the people that step back, they
just don't know what to say.
That's right.
It's not.
People aren't equipped. They don't know what to say.
They allow
don't know
space.
How to deal with it, you know.
Which
so
is
it's nobody's fault.
Yeah.
And to be honest, there's nothing that anybody could do.
No.
Regardless if
No.
You know, it's just,
That's horrible.
Yeah.
So horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to pivot now, Tim, and thank you for talking about that, because it's I think it's something that I know other people have gone through it, and I'm talking about the birth of the child, and it hasn't been a good outcome. So there's, like you said, there's miscarriages, which are just traumatic in every way. But I think the extra layer is when a birth has to happen, and it's not a desirable outcome. So I know another friend has gone through that, and listening to her story, it's just, I think when other people hear what other people are going through, they don't feel so alone in that space. I want to talk now about your passions and interests. Now, the lovely Felicity, she shared a secret with me the other day about, let's talk about your favourite music and bands. Oh, yes. The number one band for you, of course, is...
It's the great Bon Jovi.
It's the great Bon Jovi.
40 years they've been together.
Oh, my gosh.
New album, Forever, out last month.
Such a follower. 40 years they've been together. Oh, my gosh. And she told me you were on a podcast.
Yeah, I'm sorry to say, Jodes, this isn't my first rodeo with podcasts.
Oh, my God. I'm going to stop in seconds.
So I am a complete Bon Jovi nuffy. I have followed them since 1986, and I've just really enjoyed the journey of listening and to their music and going and seeing them live over and over again. And again, God bless Flick, she comes to the concerts with me as well. And now that there's a lot more availability with social media and everything, I'm not a social media person, by the way, but I do have a Twitter account purely to follow this guy who's a Bon Jovi fan.
Okay.
His name's Jerry Braden, and he's got a podcast called Bon Jovi Discussions.
Oh, wow.
And so I tweeted him probably 18 months ago and said, hey, big fan, wondering if I can come on the podcast at some point. He said, yeah, no worries, I'll put you on the list. And so probably 4 or 5 months ago.
Yes.
He got back to me and,
That's so
got
cool.
me a gig. Yeah.
So cool.
It was awesome.
What sort of stuff did you talk about?
Well, it was we actually spoke about Richie Sambora.
Okay.
So it was like an offshoot to Bon Jovi.
Okay.
But yeah, just about Richie Sambora and the collaboration that he had with another guitarist called Orianthe.
Okay.
Who's actually Australian.
Yes.
So they were a couple as well as in a band called RSO for a short period, and they put out an album and did some tours and everything.
Wow.
So I was talking a little bit about that. So it was just such an awesome experience.
So
And I'm
cool.
sitting there thinking, here's a guy who's met John Bon Jovi on multiple occasions in Philadelphia, in the US, and we're over Zoom.
That's very cool.
It was awesome. Yeah, it was so good. So good.
Bucket list.
Yeah.
Bucket list stuff. That's so cool. So your first concert, what was your first concert experience?
Well, my very first concert.
It was Wah Wah Nee?
No.
Aha?
Zig
No.
Zig Sputnik.
Oh, was it?
No, it wasn't.
Oh my gosh, what else? What are some clangers?
It was actually one of your favourite singers.
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Who would it be?
Come on. You've met him.
Bryan Adams.
Bryan Adams.
Really?
That was my first ever concert.
Oh my gosh.
Yep. Rod Laver Arena, probably 1992, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Bryan Adams was your first
ever
I
concert.
have met him.
Yeah, I know.
Due to another person's obsession with him, not so much mine. I thought you were going to say Benji and Joel.
All right.
Bryan Adams. Oh my goodness, have you been to another concert since?
Bryan Adams concert?
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen him since.
Okay.
But yeah, I see Bon Jovi all the time. they just don't come out enough.
No.
And
we're too far away.
Yeah, I know. I've seen Pearl Jam twice, and we're going to see them again in October.
Yes.
Coldplay, big fans.
Yes.
Going to see Coldplay in October as well, I think, or November, one of those.
It's good to have concerts back.
Yes, it is. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think everyone's getting on that bandwagon now. Everybody's touring after COVID.
Yeah. I think my good mate Shami, he likes the more alternative music, and so the concerts he goes to see are in sort of smaller venues like the Forum and the Palais.
Yes.
And sometimes I wish I'd sort of followed bands that were like that, because the ones I go and see, they're all in
arenas.
big stadiums and arenas.
Yes.
And yeah, it's a great atmosphere, but it's not as intimate, I suppose, as one of the smaller ones.
Bryan Adams did an intimate concert at the Palais.
Oh, really?
Which was, I think we were in about the second or third row, and he was right there. Like it was amazing, because I think he was following someone else had done a smaller tour. Oh, it was a female singer, I can't think who it was. But then he kind of was calling it was a bit of intimate or personal or something like that.
Yeah,
and it was really good.
When was this? How long ago was this?
Gosh.
Testing the memory.
It's not great. Honestly, I can't remember. It was like Ads and I went, so it was after his Rod Laver, so maybe in the goodness, I couldn't even.
Okay.
When did you go to the first Bryan Adams?
92.
92.
Yeah.
Maybe it was in like 2010 or something around there.
Okay.
Could be wrong.
Okay.
I'm absolutely
That's awesome when they play a
it was
smaller
really
venue,
good.
Yeah,
that was the first time I saw Kylie was at the Palais.
Oh, right.
A long time ago now.
I've never seen Kylie.
And that was a really good one because
she
was right there. And that was before, I think, Arena. That was before Rod Laver. And really good. It's actually kind of, it's cool.
Yeah.
It was very cool.
Yeah.
What can I go on to now? Favourite movies, TV shows, actors.
Seinfeld?
Seinfeld. Yes. Yes.
Without a doubt, Seinfeld, hands down.
Yes.
Just so clever.
Yeah.
So many.
Stood the test of time.
Oh,
it finished a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
1997, 98.
Yes.
And how can a show be so popular when none of the characters are actually likable.
Yeah.
Like, none of them are very nice people.
Yes.
Just phenomenal.
Yeah, I heard Jerry Seinfeld talked about with NBC that, Seinfeld and a few years later Friends was produced, and he said they just copied our format with better looking people. So I thought that was
That's very good.
Clever.
Yeah.
Very clever.
Yeah.
I guess life's turning points, we've talked about what has happened so far. Is there any significant turning points or moment of realisation in your life that you've had to encounter?
Probably in relation to my sister,
okay.
which, is a bit of a sad story. But she had a lot of, my sister Amy had a lot of mental health issues from quite a young age, really, from a teenager, and we unfortunately lost her when she was 29. And that was a pretty dark time, but particularly for mum and dad, because losing a child is very difficult. So saying very difficult doesn't even compete with what the right words are. But anyway, we were at Cheltenham at the time, and mum called me. She didn't even say exactly what had happened, but I could tell. I just knew. So I went down.
So you were already married?
Yeah. Flick and I were married. I can't remember if we'd had River. Oh, no, we would have, because it was at Tenham Grove. We would have had River. She would have been quite young. And, drove down to mum and dad's, and incredibly confronting. There was a policeman at the front door who said, "I'm sorry for your loss."
Wow.
And I thought, shit, that, okay. And there was poor old Amy Sue on the floor, and mum and dad on either side of her. And, it was just heartbreaking. Just heartbreaking. And again, talking about different ways of dealing with things, mum said, do you want to come down here and hold her hand? And I said, no, I don't.
Yeah.
You just, and that's just different.
That's hard.
Different ways of dealing with things. And, mum and dad had shocking bouts of depression following that, which of
massively
course
understandable.
Of course you would.
Yeah. What was your relationship with Amy leading up to that?
Oh, look, she always looked up to me, and I always had time for her. But I did find it hard to relate to her, because we were just in different worlds.
Stages.
Just completely different stages of our lives and whatnot. Like, we would try and engage her. I remember that she did come over to our place at Tenham Grove, which I'll forever be grateful for, and she stayed the night. And River was just at her, like she was a little kid, going, Auntie Amy, do this and do this. And she was just at her the whole time. And Amy was very good with her. And I they're the sorts of things that I really hold on to, because, that's all we've got now. We've only got memories.
Yes.
We don't have, we can't go around to her place or anything like that. So, that was very difficult. And even with time, I know that has been really difficult for mum and dad. Yeah. And dad as well. She was a really troubled kid, and mum and dad did everything they could, but I think they felt that they just weren't able to get the help that they needed.
Yes.
Yeah, which was frustrating for them.
Yes. Life was really only just beginning. At that age.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I don't know how you still have a smile on your face after everything you've been through, Tim. Like, when you think about everything that you've gone through, bluffing your way through jobs. No. But I think the resilience in yourself that you're saying that Flick is resilience and her resilience in everything that she's faced. But on the flip side, yourself is also resilient when you look at everything that you've been through with Amy and with Flick, and I guess and your mum and dad as well. So many things happen in your life. I'm going to flip now to this segment is called Curious Corner, where I ask some curious questions about our guests. Can you recall a time where you just could not stop laughing at something?
Yes.
Oh, excellent.
Yes, I've got one, and I'm sorry, Flick, but it relates to you.
She's not here. It's okay.
I mean, the thing about laughter is that it can become infectious, so that even something that's not even funny, you're just laughing at it, and then you hear somebody else laugh, and then you're off to the races.
The actual thing is not actually funny. Yes, I agree.
But this one I found particularly funny. We were around at a friend's place and we were playing Celebrity Head, where you put the thing on. And so Flick had Rocky Balboa, I think.
Okay.
And Flick's never seen the movie Rocky, which is fine. You don't need to see the movie Rocky. But she was asking these questions and she wasn't really getting anywhere. And myself and my mate Dave, we just sort of tried to drop some hints. So we just start yelling out, Adrian! And of course she hadn't seen the film.
She's like, what are you talking about?
No idea what we're laughing at. What are you guys talking about? We just go, Adrian!
It means nothing to her.
It meant absolutely nothing to her. And of course Dave and I are just pissing ourselves laughing more and more. And so we still bring that story up again.
Did she get it?
Well, I think she might have got it in the end because we had to spoon feed it to her. We were just shadow boxing and doing all sorts of stuff. Charades.
Yes. Well, that's perfect.
Yeah.
I love that. Oh, Flick. It's all right. I haven't seen the Rocky movies either.
Haven't you?
Other people have, yeah, in this house.
You haven't seen any of the Rocky films?
No, they don't interest me. I've seen parts of them, but just I can't do it.
Just the man coming from the poor background who comes up.
I don't even know what it's about. Flick, I'm with you on that. Wouldn't have had a clue either. Though I do know the Adrian quote because that gets repeated in our house sometimes. If you had any superpower for a day, what would it be?
I reckon it'd be to know every language in the world, so that if somebody's talking in another language, I would know what they're saying. A bit like Frank Costanza when he was in the Korean
in the nail salon.
In the nail salon, we knew what they were talking about, and they're saying, "That's silly old man."
That's right. That's gold. Yes,
and not for nefarious reasons, just because I've been fortunate enough to go to a few countries and experience different, and I love experiencing different cultures and different foods. And I would just love to be able to communicate in that country's language. So that would be my thing.
That's awesome.
But it would also be pretty cool if you're on the train or something and someone's yattering away in another language. You
don't know what they're saying.
That's
they
a good
are
one.
Talking about me. I am amazing. Yeah, that's a good one. The next one is to name 5 people you would invite for dinner and why. I reckon I could answer this anyway. The first person, someone that you would be highly unlikely to ever meet.
Well, I mean, there's John Bon Jovi.
He's
got his wife and he's got his 4 kids. I mean, then there's the band members. Sorry, did you say 5 or 50?
So 5.
5.
Yes.
Okay.
Hang on, isn't his son married to
Millie Bobby Brown?
Yes, that's right.
Yeah, just got married a few weeks ago, actually.
Yes. Okay.
Good old Jake
How was the
Bon
wedding?
Jovi.
Did you enjoy the wedding? Yeah.
It was only for a select few family and friends, but it was great. Yeah.
Enjoyed yourself? Threw back a few?
Yeah. I said to John, "You want me to play Living on the Prayer?" He said, "No, I got it." I said, "Okay, fine."
I've got this. Yes, well, that would be a table of Bon Jovi.
Okay, so John Bon Jovi, Stephen Kernahan, because he's just my favourite ever AFL player. Sticks.
Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Shane Warne.
Ah.
I loved Warnie.
Yes.
Just so sad. That was so sad.
He has charisma. That's for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I would go someone really left field and say Hillary Clinton.
Okay.
Just because of what she went through with Bill.
Yes.
Plus also how she lost that election to Trump. Which I'm sure she'd be happy to chat about that to me about.
She's coming up next.
So that's 4. Oh, goodness me. It'd be somebody that I don't particularly like.
Okay.
Because sometimes I like listening to the alternate view, even if I don't agree with it.
I love to hate. Yes.
Sorry?
You love to hate.
I love to hate.
Yes.
So, for example, I listen to the Sam Newman podcast.
Yes.
And most of his views I can't stand, but I actually do it so that I can get balanced viewpoints as opposed to just hearing what I want to hear all the time.
Sam Newman.
Possibly. Yeah.
I've listened to
possibly.
a few of his episodes of his podcast.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed his interview with John Blackman.
Oh, yes. That was really good.
One.
Yeah, that was really good. He does do some good interviews.
Yes.
Yeah.
I haven't listened to a lot, but yeah, that was one because I really like John Blackman.
So the guests he gets on are really good. It's the other episodes where he bangs on about stuff.
Off tap.
You go, oh, wow. Really?
Off tap. If you could choose one song every time to play every time you walk into a room, what would it be? What would be your entrance song if you could have a song playing? It's got to be a Bon Jovi song, doesn't it?
Of course. Like 40 years of back catalogues I'm trying to think through here, Jodes. I reckon It's My Life.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, not Living on a Prayer. Living on a Prayer was the one that sort of set them, well, You Give Love a Bad Name and then Living on a Prayer were the two that set them off. But It's My Life because I think, I think I resonate a bit more with those lyrics. Yeah.
That's a good one.
Should I sing it? Or? Oh, no, sorry.
We have the microphones. I have a third. Thinking about your favourite fictional character, if you could swap lives with any fictional character for a day, who would it be?
God, I have to have a think about that one.
Oh. We can come back to it. Let's come back to it. Well, next one...
But then I won't have time to think about it again. And then we'll just go through the whole rotation of having...
Go around in circles.
Yeah. Fictional character. That could be in anything,
Could be anything.
Yeah. See, I was initially thinking Jason Bourne.
Oh, yes.
But then I remembered all about the things that go on in his head and all that sort of stuff. And I thought, well, I don't really want to deal with that. But just maybe give me the guns, like the pecs and the build for a day.
That's okay. You don't have to do it. You don't have to be like him.
Yeah.
You can just...
Yeah, I don't have to take over the bad bits.
That's true.
I can just take over the good bits.
That's true.
Yeah.
The European women. And
Yeah.
So, as I have injured myself several times over the years, and some people might call me accident prone, I'm always curious about the people's injuries. Can you tell me about a time where you've accidentally injured yourself? I can't imagine you...
I'm actually pretty good at not getting injuries. I don't have aches or pains or any of that sort of stuff. The only time I can recall was when I was at Wonga Park Primary.
Okay.
Mum had dropped me off and I'd climbed up onto this thing, and there was a pole that was maybe a few feet away. And so me being Superman, but I hadn't put on my
That's
cape.
a fictional character.
I think that was the problem. I wasn't wearing my cape, and I went to jump on, and I missed, and I fell, and I don't know if is a fracture the same as a break?
Yes,
it is. I think I did that to my arm.
Oh my goodness!
And luckily, Mum heard the screams and turned around and came back.
Were you in plaster?
Yeah.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah. But really, I've been, touch wood,
Yeah,
I've been pretty lucky.
Sure-footed.
Yeah.
Very sure-footed. I can't think of any injuries. Yes. What's it like to be like that? I have at least a few a week. I'm amazed I'm still alive. Now, this is an interesting one. So, hall pass. Now, this is not going to hurt Felicity's feelings. So, hall pass where you're going to have a night with someone else other than your partner. Mm-hmm. Who would it be? Please don't say John Bon Jovi. John Bon Jovi.
No, not John Bon Jovi. Flick and I have actually never discussed this.
Oh, my gosh.
I reckon Selma Hayek.
Selma Hayek?
Yeah.
Yes.
She's just
in Grown Ups.
Stunning.
Yes.
And she's like she just doesn't age.
She's
unbelievable.
A vampire.
Yeah.
Selma Hayek. Oh, well, I'll get her on. See what we can organise.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, very good. A last couple of little bits. What's your proudest moment in your life?
I think parenting River and seeing River, grow up and with kids there's different levels. When they're a baby, they're just very cuddly, and then they're a toddler, and then they walk, and then they speak and they can engage with you, and that can be good or bad. And then as they grow up, there's different stages of appreciation of your child's life.
Yes.
I think, and just seeing her grow and develop, and particularly this year, I feel like she's really hit her straps and been comfortable who she is and where she's at. And, I love her to bits.
That's
really
awesome.
Great.
That's awesome. That's good. Anything you regret in your life?
Frankie Sinatra. Regrets, I've had a few, but then again, too few to mention.
That's right.
Regrets. Look, if I had regret for a period of time after Amy had passed that I didn't feel like I supported Mum and Dad enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like I left Amy to be Mum and Dad's problem.
Okay.
And not helping them enough, because it was easy for me to not help.
Mm.
But I think that was a little bit of immaturity as well.
Mm. But it's not how would you know how to help? And it is probably
I know.
easy to step away because she's not your child, and that she is their daughter, and you sort of think, it's tricky stuff, but it's and you're not to know,
no,
the
that's
outcome,
true.
I guess, too.
That's true. And you always have 20/20 vision in hindsight.
Yes,
don't you?
That's right.
With everything.
That's right.
But I certainly did. I did regret that. But look, aside from that, you make mistakes and you stuff up.
Yes.
And you learn from them. And sometimes making mistakes is good so that you can learn from things, because nobody's perfect.
Yes.
So, look, I don't walk around with too many regrets. I more think about what's,
I reckon we've got your speech sorted for your party.
Yeah, well, quite possibly. Quite possibly. This doesn't come out before next Friday, does it?
Well, I'll see how quick I am. So I'll make sure I'm released it the next day. Thank you so much for joining me today, Tim. Happy 50th birthday. for next week.
Thanks,
oh my
Jodes.
goodness.
It's a pleasure to join you in the decade of decadence.
Yes. Awesome. Thank you very much. And we'll see you next time.
Thanks very much.
Wow. Thank you to Tim for sharing some incredibly challenging moments of his life with us. But we hope you have laughed along the way with us too. Thank you to our listeners for listening and supporting this podcast. Tune in to our next episode where we get to hear more lives worth telling. Don't forget to check out and follow us on your socials. And if you love what you hear, please rate and review us on your favourite podcast app. Of course, if you have any questions, you can get in touch with us through the Facebook page or Instagram. If you or a friend or a family member would like to come on the show, please don't hesitate to get in contact with us. And if you want to grab yourself some merch, jump onto Redbubble to check out our products. Thanks for listening to Lives Worth Telling. See you next time.